what it did, it pushed all of the river sand up against that big wall and it melted down. It pushed it so hard, what you really got with all the pressure and temperature, all the sand on the Flint River melted down. And what happened now?
We got a big layer of it over the side of a mountain.
It's just like if you grabbed a piece of silly putty and squeezed it as hard as you can, it's going to slither out between your fingers. And what happened was that all this quartz remember this had quartz in it. This also has quartz in it. All your quartz in here that gets sedimented, weathered away, turns out to be flowing in the river. And when this goat rock, when the Jeff Davis rock came pushing through here, it quite actually liquefied all of the sand on the river, and it created a zone of white quartz. Dr. Dallas, do you have any of that down in your region, down on the river? So you missed it. Okay, it was down below. It was either above or below your. So now then, that is answered. Where did all that red mud come from? It's the pure crushing out of all of the feldspar, and the white quartz came from the meltdown that's along in here. Now let me tell you that as this is sliding along here, it is also generating extremely intense heat. All of the rocks along in here will have a meltdown too. And when they cool down, guess what they cool down into? Well, technically, I've got them over here, and you can see them. This is called pyroxene, hornblende, biotite. No, that's biotite. That's called amphibole. At any rate, all of those minerals that got liquefied, when they start re-solidifying, turn into these various types of rocks. Here's a piece right here. That's almost pure iron right there. That's a piece of hornblende. We also made pure quartz. We made white mica and quartzite. All of these come from the fact that you have the meltdown as this thing slithers along. The reason I wanted you to read that, I wanted to read it to you, what the official wording says. Intrusive into the Manchester Formation is a batholith of garnetiferous biotite granite for which the name Jeff Davis granite is proposed. Along the margins of this body is a wide belt of nigmatization. That's this area right in here. What you really do is once you get the meltdown over here, it cooks all of this into various exotic things. And that's where we get the mica as it cools down, it says here, and it is principally within this belt that the commercial mica-bearing pegmatites of the Thomaston area occur. Now here's the most even more unbelievable thing. Intrusive into the Jeff Davis granite and surrounding migmatite are rocks of the Charnockite series. I gotta tell you that this did some severe damage to the underlying granite that it slid over. In other words, it rubbed a sore on it, folks. And that's exactly what happened. We got a bubble out of the red zone here represents more granite of the Georgia type. In other words, this comes from Africa, bless its heart, and it rubbed this hole here, which created sort of what they call a tourniquet. There's some down in Weaver Park, by the way, some of those boulders. And by the way, go out to Walmart and you will see one of these boulders sitting up on a hill right there. That didn't come from Africa, that came from the sore that this rubbed into. In other words, they had a big meltdown and all of that stuff boiled up by the way, it was doing the same thing even at that time up in Stone Mountain. That's where the Stone Mountain got. And by the way, when I said that we came over to here and we got the beautiful white quartzite, the one that went through the belt to the north of us, I was pushed all the way to Opelika, Alabama before it quit. The one above us pushed all the way to Sylacauga, Alabama. You know what's in Sylacauga, Susie? That's the most beautiful marble mine you've ever seen. They mine marble over there. And the one to the north of that, the Brevard Fault, ended up in Rome, Georgia, and they do limestone and marble, I believe. I'm not sure if they have marble or not. I know they have limestone. But the point being that all of these legs of that African granite that was thrust upon us created all of the minerals that we have in Upson County. And all the mining that we do then, we can pretty well be assured is going to be along these zones, what they call migmatite. The things like quartz you'll find scattered all over the county because it actually was on the leading edge of this and it didn't really get crushed out. They find agate over here in the Adams mine. Where's Dr. James over there? And yeah, over in the Adams mine over around Yatesville, they found agate. And I can't explain agate because it's almost like it's got to be formed in the bottom of a lake or something like that. I don't have an explanation. But there is one thing that we're missing right here, and this is really hurting my feelings. Everybody knows what I have here is that's kaolin, and kaolin is found all along this region down in here. And I'll tell you what happened on the kaolin. We ground it up for them. I mean, we had the aluminum and silicate that they needed. We ground it into a lovely powder, but it didn't form yet. And the reason is Africa hadn't gone home. And when Africa went home, folks, they went off and left part of their baggage here. And they left this. And Albert, you told me today when Africa pulled away, do you know what it left us with? The fall line. You can now follow that fall line all the way up to Nova Scotia. That's where Africa slammed, and when they pulled away along what we call the fall line. So that's where the fall line comes from, and that means that everyone south of us, starting over down around, it's called the Tuscaloosa Formation, by the way, if you've ever stopped to read that plaque on the way to Butler at those chicken houses down there. They have a sign called the Tuscaloosa Formation. What they're really saying is that all this activity ceased at a certain point, Opelika here and Tuscaloosa all the way, and it goes all the way to up to Nova Scotia. And what it is when Africa, as I said, finally got tired of messing up our playhouse, they slowly drifted away, and they drifted away, leaving us. And we call ourselves as the Piedmont Plateau. The Piedmont Plateau was the gift from Africa. Thank you, Africa. We appreciate it. I mean, we have a lot of fun on the plateau. The people below us is called the coastal plain, of course, and they then get all of the sediment that washes out of this area as it erodes away or weathers away or what have you. Now, have I gone far enough or too far? Do we have any questions on anything? I see one. What is it?
Why is there so much iron around?
Iron? Well, hey, iron is almost, let me tell you, 8% of the world is made of iron, if that makes you feel any better. If I've got a little chart right here that says oxygen makes up about 60%, and silicon is about 20%, and iron is 8%, and aluminum is 5%, and calcium is 3%, and so forth and so on. So there is a lot of iron, which is why you're supposed to eat spinach. That's what my mama said. She's the same one wondered where that red mud came from. Anyway, but did that answer your question? It doesn't. Well, trust me, let me tell you this about iron, since he did mention iron. Iron that is locked up in a rock is not red. And you know why? Because it's not rusted. That's why. But the minute iron meets oxygen, they are a marriage forever. I mean, you can't unbreak it hardly, or to put it another way, once rust happens, you're stuck with rust. You can scrape it off, but iron is going to be hanging on to oxygen henceforth and forever. The good part about that is it turns red. That unfortunately, our dirt has so much iron in it that we have got red mud. That's it. Did I see another question? Yes.
How do you get the red mud out of clothes?
I don't know, but I'm sure there's a commercial somewhere. I think they use Bon Amy.
Hey, Jerry, show them that odd rock right there.
Yeah,
Tell
Albert,
them what you might know about that.
Albert came in today to show me, he was wondering if this was a meteorite, but really what it is a coral piece that along the Tuscaloosa Formation. This was a seashore there for many millions of years, and this is a piece of coral that had become encrusted, and I can tell it with some of the iron that has washed out of Upson County. In other words, it has sort of settled on a piece of coral, and there's a lot of this in Taylor County. And in fact, when the Arrowhead people were here the other day, one thing, they had a name for arrowheads that had been made out of stuff like that. He called it Coastal Plains Chert. Remember that? Was okay. Are there other questions? Yes?
Would there be any particular place of some kind of that you would find silicon rocks more so than other minerals?
Well, you know, silicates are the ubiquitous, like I said, they make, between silicon and oxygen, you have got every rock that you find is a silicate in Upson County.
Okay.
Unless it's like over in Sylacauga, Alabama, which had a calcium carbonate, which is we don't have a lot of, mainly because our calcium and magnesium, sodium are all water soluble. So over time, all the calcium, magnesium gets washed away. It goes to the ocean, by the way, where seashells take it up and turn it into limestone and that sort of thing. But your question is, were you really talking about quartz pieces or
right,
just,
right.
yeah. Would you believe they can show up anywhere? Oh, and the reason is they were part of that churning process when the big Jeff Davis granite came rolling through. But yes, they'll show up most well, you know, we live in Silvertown, they call it Crystal Hill out there, and you will find quartz pieces lying around. So it's all over. Others?
Why did they attach the name Jeff Davis?
You know what I was telling that Charlotte McGahee there. I knew you. I can see you, Charlotte. They did it, and remember I told you this took place, all the big geological investigations took place in the 50s. They would have never allied it with some African continent or some other continent anywhere. And by the way, part of this literature that we have on it relates to warfare. The first time World War I came along, they needed mica for such things as insulation, isinglass, and what have you. When World War II came along, they needed it even more so because the sources in India had been cut down, so they needed it to go between windshields of airplanes. It made shatterproof glass, and it made and 10,000 other uses for it. That's when the government funded all of the inquiry into Upson County. Then after World War II was over, a whole new threat came about. Guess what? The Cold War. So now then, find all the uranium you can. We don't want to have some of those diamonds in your backyard that are uranium diamonds, you might say. So this is where we've got such good a geological observation. And let me tell you, the last time they came through all these minerals of Upson County, that was in 1978, bulletin number 72 that I've got around here somewhere, and make that bulletin 92. These people just went out and went through all the tailings, all